One of the most difficult things which was happening during his time was stirrings of war. We had just gotten out of one war, yet the French and the English were very interested in what was happening with this new rebel nation. Because of France declaring its independence, they wanted our support, as they had helped us with General Lafayette to a degree during our revolution. But John Adams believed very strongly, as did George Washington, that the United States was in no position to get involved in a war. We had just finished a very costly and deadly war of our own to win our freedom. The last thing we needed was to get embroiled in the European conflicts, which would completely alienate one country or the other. But the French didn't like this neutral position, seeing it as siding with the English. As a result, they started attacking some of the American harbors and ships. There was only one thing to do. John Adams formed the United States Navy and Marine Corps. That stands out as one of his most lasting and important contributions as a US president. This military conflict was called the quasi-war because there really wasn't a war, but he established these three strong American naval ships and the beginning of the American Navy, making us a strong presence which the French and the English knew they had to respect. And he drew on the time he had spent in Europe as a diplomat, as an ambassador, seeing the customs of Europe, and he kept that degree of formality as he was then president. One thing which made him very unpopular was a certain incident known as the XYZ Affair. This had to do with, again, the French. In order to agree to normalizing relations with the United States, they wanted some kind of bribes, and there was this long list of demands. Well, these demands were released in the American press, most notably the Democratic Republican press. And it was very critical against the current administration, Adams. As a result, John Adams was feeling pressured and was also counseled by his wife to pass the Alien and Sedition Acts, which was extremely unpopular because many people saw that as un-American. Basically, it allowed for the imprisonment and deportation of either press or immigrants who were seen as not being supportive of the United States. And many people said this went against the basic American principle of freedom of speech and the idea of welcoming immigrants, because so many of the founding fathers and others were immigrants. So he lost a lot of popularity because of this incident, and as a result, he did not win re-election in what was the fourth presidential election. He was beat significantly by Thomas Jefferson. In fact, he was beat so significantly that he didn't even come in second. He came in third. So Aaron Burr became vice president, and he returned to his farm, rather depressed. But there is one other thing which John Adams did during his time as president that was very important. He was the first president to live in the White House. Now, it wasn't known as the White House then. It was called the President's House. Upon christening the White House, or the President's House, John Adams said, "I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof." And this wise quote was later inscribed on the mantelpiece. Adams lived quite a long time after leaving office in 1801. As a matter of fact, he lived until 1826, a long time for someone of his generation. During that time, he continued to write a lot and enjoy being with his family. And quite heartwarmingly, he made friends with his old political rival, Thomas Jefferson, in the year 1812, and they enjoyed a very lively correspondence in the remaining years of their lives, remarkably, both dying on the same day, July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the signing of their Declaration of Independence.